Hello and welcome to The Truth and Nothing But the Truth. I am Courtney, and today's subject is going to be quite the hot button issue, okay? But it comes with a twist. So while the basis of the subject is covering the 2019 impeachment of Donald J. Trump, the 45th President of the United States of America, the twist to this is it's not going to be about whether he should have been impeached or if the process leading up to the vote was done correctly, or your opinion about the impeachment at all. Okay, the impeachment, we can't go back on that. We're just going to move forward. Now, where we're at with that is we have not sent anything, Congress has not sent anything to the Senate. So this happened, if I recall, December 19th, okay, 2019. Today is the last day of 2019, so it's the 31st. And what are we doing holding on to these articles? So the subject today is going to be, should there be an amendment made or a rule, which the Senate can do, added to the impeachment process that once impeachment votes have occurred, if there is supermajority for impeachment of a president on articles presented, should there be a timeline that those articles must be brought before the Senate and presented to them? So the actual portion that the Senate performs, where they hold a trial to, either convict or, acquit the president of the crimes he's been accused of. Okay, so let's go over some facts here. The Constitution gives Congress the authority to impeach and remove the president, vice presidents, and all civil officers of the United States upon a determination that such officers have engaged in treason, bribery, or other high crimes and misdemeanors. Okay? I got that portion, that quote, from Wikipedia. Now, here's the thing. You must be really, really careful with who you get your sources from, okay? We all know Wikipedia can be altered. So, when it comes to that particular statement, it states Congress can do that. A lot of people are not up to the informational portion of what that actually means. When it states Congress, it is not talking about Congress as in the House of Representatives. Okay? It is talking Congress as in the elected officials in both the House of Representatives and the Senate. That's what the Constitution refers to as Congress. Okay? So, now that we've gotten that out of the way, on to the next fact. The Senate can change all the rules. Okay? The proceedings and customs of the Senate impeachment trial can be changed at any time. The Senate, with its sole power, and I'm going to reiterate that, sole power to try impeachments, can vote by a simple majority, so 2/3, to change almost all of the rules. Okay? In fact, if it wanted to, the Senate could refuse to vote on articles of impeachment entirely and simply dismiss the case. Okay? In the two previous presidential impeachments, however, so that would have been Bill Clinton and Dale Nixon. Or actually, I think it wouldn't have been Dale Nixon because his didn't get quite to the Senate. He actually resigned before it got to the Senate. That has never happened. Okay. And now I got that information from www.history.com/news/what-happens-after-impeachment. So you can look up that link, or you can click the link in the description to read the rest of that article yourself. Now, when it comes to the actual Senate trial, There's a few things that have to happen first. So when impeachment is voted upon in the House of Representatives, and this is really important because as of right now, factually and the legalities of it, the president has not technically been impeached. The reason for that is the Constitution states that it has to go before the Senate. Okay. Right now, all that's occurred is the pre-vote section, which is like the intelligence hearing, the open testimonies, all that fun stuff, okay? Once the vote occurs, the next step to finalize impeachment is to actually bring it before the Senate with what are known as managers. There can be one, there can be two, there can be three. But they actually bring those articles that were voted on for impeachment in the House of Representatives to Senate and present those articles for the Senate and state that the president has been impeached. Now, we all know that that hasn't happened yet. And that's a little concerning, given that we all know impeachment proceedings are extremely costly. They cost a lot of money. I don't have the statistical number for that right now on how much was actually spent during the proceedings. I will probably update the video with that later. But right now, just understand it's a lot of money, okay? And for someone to spend all that money, a house that is supposed to represent the American people, if they're spending that money, they need to follow through with the rest of the process so that money isn't wasted, okay? Now, on to the next piece here. Why has the Senate not received the articles? Okay. For starters, let's go with what House Speaker Nancy Pelosi has said about why she has not moved forward with sending those over. She states that Nancy Pelosi would not commit on Wednesday, the day of the impeachment, to sending the articles of impeachment to the Senate, saying in a post-impeachment vote news conference, that would have been our intention, but we'll see what happens over there. Okay, that's quite interesting as to why she would say that. Now, let's elaborate more onto that. Questions. This is coming from a different source. The previous source was MSN.com. But this source, which comes from a very biased source, so I will make that very clear, okay? This comes from a source known as Red State, which is obviously a Republican biased site. But it does bring up some really good points, which is why I included it in this video. Questions are now being raised about the propriety of House Speaker Nancy Pelosi sitting on the articles of impeachment against President Donald Trump in the wake of the vote and not immediately passing them into the Senate. They are pretty accurate on that. When it comes down to it, people are starting to question the propriety of Nancy Pelosi and the Democratic Party for not sending that over because, there's a lot of people who are very excited that the vote went in favor of impeachment. And then there are a lot of people who are really disappointed that it went in favor of impeachment. So with their not sending those over, a lot of people are calling into question her integrity and her reasons for actually doing impeachment. Let's see here. Now, once again, this is from the Red State. The Democrats' own impeachment hearing witness, Harvard law professor Noah Feldman, said that not passing on articles would mean that Trump hadn't actually been impeached, which once again is true. As I stated before, it needs to go before the Senate. They have to bring the articles. They have to state he's been impeached, et cetera, et cetera. He also had an implicit admonishment of Pelosi's tactic when he said that while a short delay might not be problematic, sitting on them would not only deviate from constitutional protocol, but it would also deny the president the chance to defend himself in the Senate that the Constitution provides. Okay, so now remember, this one is coming from a Democratic Harvard law professor. So he's a pretty reliable source. And that's something that we as the American people really need to think about. Are the Democratic contenders who are doing the passing of articles, are they actually denying the president his right to a fair trial? We all know that impeachment does not mean guilty. It is simply the vote on allegations based on previous evidence that has been gathered to go before a trial, to determine if that person is in fact guilty of the things they've been accused of. So innocent until proven guilty. And unfortunately, all of us have seen that, oh, well, he's not guilty of these things. And, oh, he is guilty of these things. We are the public jury. And this public jury has been jumping very, very erratically to conclusions over impeachment proceedings and the articles that have been voted on. Some are calling for the conviction so Donald Trump can be removed. And if that happens, of course, Vice President Pence would then become president until January inauguration. And Donald Trump would not be allowed to run again if he is convicted of the articles of impeachment. So there's that information. Now, that did come from the red state. And to finish off their article here that I have is, speaking to reporters after the vote, this is what Pelosi said, would not immediately transmit the articles to the Senate as Republicans did in the 1998 impeachment of President Bill Clinton. So going back to the last impeachment of Bill Clinton, once the vote occurred, it was sent right away over to the Senate. There was no delay. It was brought before, and as everybody knows, the Senate acquitted him. Okay? So it doesn't matter who sent it. The fact is, it did get sent in a timely manner to the Senate. So the next step could go forward and Bill Clinton could receive his due process. Okay. Now, it goes on to say that we will make a decision, okay, as to they will make a decision as to when we are going to send it when we see what they are doing on the Senate side. That's a decision that we will make jointly. Okay? So they're waiting to send it because they say they're waiting to see what the Senate's going to do on their side. But that's really not the House of Representatives' job. Okay? The actual portion of determining guilt, it's just their job to vote on it and send it over. Okay? The rest is up to the Senate. So what they're doing right now is not, it doesn't follow the constitutional process. And that's just the facts of it. Whether you agree with it or not, that's just the way it is. Now, she did add that her and her colleagues in the House have not raised the prospect of not transmitting the articles at all. Okay, so that has not been brought up, okay? They don't intend to have just voted and then not send it over. But they are waiting for the Senate to set their rules. Okay, but the Senate needs the articles as well. And if I recall correctly, they set their rules when they receive the actual impeachment articles. So they can't set their rules if they don't have those articles that are being presented to them. Okay. And then she also goes on to state, we are not sending it tonight because it's difficult to determine who the managers would be until we see the arena in which we will be participating. Well, we all know how many people sit in the Senate. Okay, there's 100 people have seats in the Senate. Right now, it's majority Republican. Okay, and the numbers for that are actually 53 seats in the 2019-20 session. There are 47 Democratic seats, and 53 of those are Republican. Okay, there needs to be a two-thirds majority vote for conviction. Now, two-thirds of 100 is actually 67. So if there are 67 or more votes for conviction, the impeached president will then be removed from office and he can be charged with the high crimes. Okay, being convicted does not mean he is no longer liable for the things that he has done if he has done those things. Okay. Next would be, mind you, that's if all senators are attending. There's 100. There have been cases where not all of the senators were there. Like, I'll go into that in another video. Anyway, to finish up and wrap this up here, Pelosi did signal that she believes the Senate Republicans will not put on a fair trial for Trump, comparing them to a jury in cahoots with the accused. That statement is extraordinarily biased, okay? Because if you look at the facts of how the impeachment went, there was a lot that people did not agree on, okay? But this is actually the very first time in American history that a president has had articles of impeachment approved by a strictly partisan vote, okay? As I stated earlier, 199 Republicans, which is all that sits in the House of Representatives, is 199 Republicans, voted no. 2 Democrats on the first article voted no as well as a third on the second article. Now, both articles 1 and 2, who voted yes, were all Democratic, okay? And then 1 independent. That 1 independent does not make it a partisan or a bipartisan vote, okay? Because the very definition of an independent is someone who sides with either or party, but is not actually affiliated or claim to be a part of that party. So they're not. This goes back to that two-party system. So they are not considered a bipartisan calculated vote, if that makes sense. So ultimately, this is the very first time in American history that a strictly partisan vote for articles of impeachment have occurred. When it comes down to it, we all know that the Senate is majority Republican, and I'm not sure why Nancy Pelosi states that she won't get a fair trial, because if we look at the facts of it, yes, there have been Republicans that state they are not going to vote for conviction. But on the flip side of that coin, there are also Democrats who sit in the Senate who said they are going to vote for articles of impeachment for conviction. So if she's only doing it because the Republicans are saying that they're not going to do it, and mind you, not all of the Republicans have even made a statement on it. Not all of the Democrats have made a statement on what their decision for voting is going to be, okay? So there's quite a few. If I recall correctly, there's like 59 of them that don't have a public statement on how they're going to vote, okay? So if she, according to her statements, has determined that she doesn't think it's going to be a fair trial, then she's right. But it's not just the Republicans' fault. A coin has 2 sides, like I stated earlier, and it is not complete without those sides. So given that some Democrats have already found him guilty and some Republicans have already found him not guilty, that is bias from both sides. And that completely removes due process, okay? If you've determined somebody is guilty before evidence in a trial and, you're labeling them as guilty before you even see evidence or hear testimonials or listen to witnesses, that is biased. And in the aspect of Trump won't get a fair trial, she's right, but it's not in the way that she is describing it. You can't have people sitting on the jury, and let's face it, the Senate is the jury. You cannot have people in a court of law, in a jury, who have determined somebody is guilty before ever hearing anything. And that's where we stand today. So, given that you have this information now, okay, and no matter what your opinion is of Democrats or Republicans or Donald J. Trump, my question to you is, would you like to see a rule set or an amendment made to the impeachment process, giving a specified time frame for which articles of impeachment that have been approved must be passed to the Senate so the person accused can receive their due process through a trial? Put your answers below. Let me know what you think. Remember, please keep it civil. This is not about dividing. This is about information and communication. And I will see you next time. I look forward to hearing from you. Thank you for watching my channel. The truth, the nothing but the truth. Have a great day. Bye-bye.